Yes, you may.
Cell phones? SMS?
Correct.
What is SMS about?
SMS is a basic text-based messages. MMS can include audio, video, photos, etc.
So the one we looked at previously was SMS, right? What's the one in front of you?
It states it is MMS messages.
All right. So sorry about that. Turn to March 14th, 2020, please. And this would be Exhibit 75. We're looking at page 346, if that helps.
I have it.
All right. So your brother Jake, the police officer, indicates he just gave a Mennonite a ticket. This is a group text, right, to you and Mark Gooch?
Correct.
Right. And what was the date and time for that?
March 14th, 2020, 8:48 a.m.
And what was Mark Gooch's response?
Fuck yes.
Fuck yes, and how many exclamation marks?
4.
All right. And then what's his next text from Mark Gooch?
I hope you treated M like shit.
I didn't hear you. I hope you treated what?
I hope you treated M like shit. EM.
Thank you. What was your response?
Haha. Hell yeah. Tell them the VA state police doesn't like cultists.
Cultists. Did you believe that Mennonites were a cult?
No.
You were just joining in the banter?
While I believe there's certain things about the Mennonite life that can be seemed cultist, I don't believe they are cultist. That was part of the banter. Things were exaggerated and taken a little too far.
Okay. Jay Gooch responded to your text, right? What was his response?
I did, LOL.
And then Mark Gooch responded.
Haha, fuck yeah.
How many exclamation marks there?
3.
All right. And then Jay Gooch talks about coughing. Can you read that?
I coughed on him so he would spread corona to the wedding they were going to, LOL.
And what was Mark's response?
Aha, that's fucking hilarious. Is it a ticket that he has to appear in court, question mark?
And Jake's response was what?
Yup, it's reckless.
And Mark said what?
Hell yes.
Exclamation mark, right? So that was in March of 2020, a couple months after this surveillance episode that he texted you about, right?
Correct.
All right. Now, these are text messages that we've been talking about, but you had occasional phone calls with Mark, is that right?
That is correct.
Would you say you had more communication through text or through phone calls?
Probably through text.
Okay. How many phone calls do you think you had from 2019 till mid-2020?
I can't accurately guess that.
Would it help to look at a phone record?
Sure.
You may.
Calls between you and Mark Gooch.
Yes, it would appear so.
All right. How many total calls says at the top there?
82.
Does that seem about right?
That would seem correct.
Okay. And what are the date ranges for that entire call log? What's the first date there?
November 8th of 2018 up until April 10th of 2020.
All right. So we'll call that, what, a year and a half or so?
Correct.
Is that about right? So 82 calls in that year and a half. Turn to the 18th. Is there something significant about January 18, 2020 in your mind?
There were several calls that day.
Right. But let me just ask you before you kind of look through the record, was there something significant about that date for you?
Not that I can recall.
Right. Is there a reason why you would have had significant contact with Mark Gooch on that day?
It was not uncommon for us to talk extensively.
Okay. Well, let's look at the pattern. Can you go to November? Would have been November of 2019. So this is a couple months before, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there just describe all the calls that happened in November? Just the length of time, who's calling who, if you could.
I believe it appears there was a call on November 3rd,
How long was that call?
a minute and 38 seconds.
All right. Next call on November?
Call on November 5th, 3 seconds.
3 seconds. Okay. What was the next call?
Call on November 10th, 20 minutes and 47 seconds. And a call on November 15th for 28 seconds.
All right. So 4 calls in November, right?
Correct.
Totaling about, if we're being generous, an hour?
Correct.
Okay. What about December? Any calls in December?
No listed calls in December.
No listed calls. What about January?
Several calls in January.
All right, let's take it from the 1st of January. What do you see?
Nothing up until January 18th.
So no calls in December, no calls until January 18. How many calls on January 18?
6 calls.
6?
6 calls.
Okay. When was the first phone call?
10:58 a.m.
How long did that last?
25 minutes and 7 seconds.
What was that conversation about?
I don't recall anything of substance from those conversations.
All right. What was the next call on that date?
12:06 p.m. for 8 minutes and 32 seconds. 8 minutes and 42 seconds.
And let's just specify who's calling whom.
It would appear Mark Gooch is calling myself.
Okay. On both of those calls that we just talked about?
Those 2 calls, correct.
All right. What about the next phone call that day?
At 12:17 p.m. for 3 minutes and 42 seconds.
What about the next call?
1:19 p.m. missed call, 0 minutes.
Who was calling whom?
I was calling Mark Gooch.
All right. You were calling him. It was a missed call. What about the next call?
1:25 p.m. calling Mark Gooch.
You sure?
No, that's right. I'm sorry. It looks like Mark Gooch is calling myself.
All right. Thank you. And I think there's one more call, right? This would be the 6th call of that day?
Correct. At 4:55 p.m. for 25 minutes and 44 seconds, Mark Gooch was calling myself.
So if we were to add up all that time, we're talking about over 90 minutes of phone conversation that day. Is that right?
That seems correct.
Okay. You don't remember anything from those conversations?
If something would have stood out, I believe I would recall that.
Do you know where he was when he made those calls?
I do not recall where he was.
Did he say anything about taking a trip that day?
Not that I can remember.
All right. So the last contact you had with him on that date was at 4:55 p.m. That was a phone call. Any text messages with him that day? We'll have to go to the text record for that.
Want me to look at the MMS or the SMS, or both?
You can look at both. So Exhibit 75 would be the MMS record. Just asking about that day, January 18.
Yes, there's some MMS messages.
Is that between you and him or someone else and Mark Gooch?
It looks to be between me and him.
All right. What were the texts about?
As far as the MMS messages, I stated I was on my couch playing games, that I needed to go out and do snow removal soon. He then sent me a link to a Facebook post, and there appears to be a photo which I can't identify.
All right. And that was on what date and what
January 18th, 2020.
time? What time, I'm sorry?